Bring the lights down low, time to start the show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful or odd. We cover them all on your favorite pod. They're dramatic, funny, sometimes scary. That's not weird, that's extraordinary. I got the need and I've got a fever. So play me a little dream weaver. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action-packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
Hey, everybody. Hello and welcome to the 30-something movie podcast. We've got a great one for you this time around. We are talking about Broken Arrow. We are just smack dab in the middle of some amazing 90s action goodness. We are in the middle of our John Travolta Appreciation Month, starting this one off, and it's going to be a fun month. Broken Arrow, Michael, Phenomenon, and then if you're with us over on Patreon, we've also got coverage of Carrie and a Patreon short episode on The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. So it is going to be more John Travolta than you might even want to interact with this month. But you know what? Ain't it cool? Ain't it cool? So we're gonna give you more John Travolta than you've probably ever considered. But our very, very special thing about this episode is we have a guest with us that was on our show. I'm going to go all the way back to, I think, episode 425. It's been about almost exactly 4 years ago. It was August of 2022, and we had Andy Frye. And at that point, Andy, you had just had your book come out, The 90 Days in the 90s. And and then we got to have a chance to have you on and kind of talk through the book and how things been going since then.
Good deal. I mean, yeah, good. It's writers are always writing. We're always looking for, things to inspire us. And I'm working on half a dozen projects as it is. But yeah, things have been good. Actually, the 90 Days in the 90s got optioned for film, I guess probably about a couple of months after I talked to you guys. It was sort of a long time coming. As you probably know, with movies and film, things take forever. So, so 90 Days in the 90s, at some point, I guess, will be maybe an indie film. It's the script is done. It's been actually, there's a guy named Alejandro Montoya Marin, who is an up-and-coming director in Hollywood. He just actually did a movie. I think you guys would like this movie that came out last fall. Called The Unexpected is the name of the film, starring Matt Walsh and Gary Bednob from 40-Year-Old Virgin is in it, and it was executive produced by Kevin Smith. So,
oh, nice.
Anyway, so Alejandro's movie is basically about, imagine a couple of us, at our age, investing with a crypto scammer, and then we realize we've been had, we go after them with guns and knives and bombs. So that's basically what the film is about. The Unexpecteds actually won Best Comedy at Smodcastle, which is Kevin Smith's film fest in the fall. And so, I mean, Alejandro's written the script, and I'm not sure where we're at, but, we'll just see how things go. So that's kind of exciting. And other than that, I'm writing a book about golf this summer. So.
Oh, excellent.
Cool. Right on. That sounds really cool.
I did just look it up. So you mentioned The Unexpecteds. I did look it up because I know several of our listeners really enjoy the service Tubi to be able to catch some movies on Tubi TV. And I did look it up. It is actually free to watch on Tubi right now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Check it out.
So yeah, if our listeners want to get a chance to check out a movie that may mimic some of the with the director may mimic some of the styles, whatnot that may be coming for 90 Days in the 90s, then check out The Unexpecteds. This is from 2024, and it is currently on Tubi for free. So that is awesome.
Cool. Well, good deal. Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times. We did, because I'm in Chicago, and there was some Chicago film-related things here. We did a screening of, which I helped organize a screening last October. So I got to meet, I've met Hunter a couple times, met some of the other cast members like Chelsea Rendon, and got to hang out with Matt Walsh for a weekend, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you watch Veep, but he's a super cool guy and just really like down to earth. I met his family because they came out to see him, and so it's a good time. So it's good to know people who are creative in different areas who are also down to earth people too. I like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Now, pivoting into Broken Arrow, when I know you and I occasionally would have messaged back and forth. I followed you on social media. I know that you had reached out, and I sent you a list of some of the ones that we were doing this year. Yeah. And I think there were this one and another one. I think you were immediately like, these are the ones I would want to come on and talk about. So what is it about, before we even jump into, we'll get into more detail later, but just initially, what is it about Broken Arrow that you saw that one on the list and you're like, I got to talk about that one?
Well, I mean, in all fairness, there was another movie in the list where I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't remember if it was like Scream or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 20. So 1996, I was 24. So, I was kind of over I definitely was not liking the boy band onset in the 90s, was not into Scream. I lived with a guy who went to film school, so I think I'd heard about John Woo before I even had seen any of his movies, because my roommate, Rob, was into film noir. I didn't know what film noir was before I lived with him. And this was a guy who had seen every Bond movie. Rob had the cool pens and the expensive cigarettes and all kinds of accessories that you would have if you're a Bond film freak. And also he knew a lot about the Hong Kong circuit. And so I remember when Broken Arrow was coming out, he's like, okay, John Woo's got a film in America. It's probably going to be very different, which it was. And I remember going to see it in the theater, which is not something I've ever done or I'm very good at, unless it's a Bond film, actually. So when I came up with the list, I thought, I remember seeing that. It was kind of like a big sort of, I guess, a big thing where someone else, again, in a different creative facet, said, well, here's something that I know about that I think you would like, and just kind of introduced it to me. So, I had a different perspective watching it this week. I just actually watched it again today. And I mean, as is typical with things that we endured 30 years ago, I have a little bit different feelings about it. But it was just kind of one of those things that, in the 90s, I mean, from my perspective, when alternative rock and grunge and the good hip hop, like Public Enemy and Tribe Called Quest, went mainstream, I was like, yes. So when people were interested in film noir and John Woo, I'm like, yes. It was just the right time for a lot of different types of things after all the gloss of the 80s to try something new. So, I think it fit right in. And I can talk about the narrative and sort of the influences and the atmosphere of film from not being a super film buff. But I think there was a context to the times that it fit into perfectly. So that's why I wanted to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll dive into more of that here in just a minute. Let me go ahead real quick before we jump in too much further and just remind our listeners that we do spoil. So if you happen to hear us as we're talking, this is a free-flowing talking podcast, so as most of them are. But we spoil freely here. So if you hear us start to mention a movie and you don't want to know anything about that movie because you haven't seen it yet, maybe just hit skip a couple of times on your podcast app, and we should have gotten it out of our system and moved on. So just be warned with that. We don't really give any other spoiler warnings other than this one right up front here. And if you haven't already, make sure you visit our website, 30podcast.com, where you can leave a rating. You can leave us a voicemail there, too, if you want to become one of our co-executive producers over on Patreon for the bonus content. That is the good stuff that is over there as well. And then, Andy, before we get done here on this episode, we're going to have you plug your website, anything else that you might want to share with the listeners as well, so we know where to send them to see more of your work and more of your writing and the stuff that you've done.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
All right, at the start of every month, we do a segment called This Month in 96, and we are in August of 1996. So top news for this one, August 1st. George R.R. Martin publishes the epic fantasy novel A Game of Thrones, the first in his series A Song of Fire and Ice, which will never end and probably never be finished. August 3rd, Macarena by Los Del Rio starts a 14-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles chart. Sales of 11 million copies worldwide lead to its ranking as the number 1 greatest one-hit wonder of all time by VH1 in 2002. August 6th, American punk rock band The Ramones performs for the last time at the Palace in Hollywood, California. And August 26th, the TV series Seventh Heaven, starring Jessica Biel, debuts on Warner Brothers. Births on August 12th, Ilona Maher, the American rugby union player, 2024 Olympic Sevens bronze medalist, born in Burlington, Vermont. She is awesome. She's got a great social media presence and she's done a lot for rugby in general, but women's rugby in particular. She's awesome. Like, go check her stuff out on social media. Top books for this time around is Cause of Death by Patricia Cornwell, and Servant of the Bones by Anne Rice. Top movies were A Time to Kill, Jack, Tin Cup, and The Island of Dr. Moreau. And the top song, as we mentioned before, is The Macarena by Los Del Rio. So this time around, like I said, we are doing Broken Arrow. We're going to jump right into the trivia side of this one. This one was released on February 9th, 1996, with a rating of R, runtime of 1 hour and 48 minutes, directed by John Woo, who did The Killer on Hard Boiled. Writers Graham Yost, who did Speed and Mission to Mars. Producers were Mark Gordon and Terrence Chang. Gordon did Saving Private Ryan and Source Code. Chang did Face Off, and Wind Talkers. Composer is Hans Zimmer. We've heard of him from a couple little tiny projects here and there. He did the live-action Lion King and Inception. Cinematographer is Peter Levy, who did Predator 2 and Judgment Night. Editors were John Hutching and Steve Merkovich. Hutching did JFK and Almost Famous, and Merkovich did Con Air and Rush Hour. Production company is 20th Century Fox. Budget was $50 million. Box office $150.2 million. Flickmetrics gives it a 61 score, and CinemaScore gives it a B+. John Travolta plays Vic Deakins. He was in Pulp Fiction and Face Off. Christian Slater is Riley Hale. He's in Heathers and True Romance. Samantha Mathis is Terry Carmichael. She's in Pump Up the Volume and American Psycho. Delroy Lindo is Max Wilkins. He's in Get Shorty and Gone in 60 Seconds. Frank Whaley is Giles Prentice. He's in Pulp Fiction and Field of Dreams. Bob Gunton is Pritchett. He's in The Shawshank Redemption and The Fugitive. Howie Long is Kelly. He's in Firestorm and Dollar of the Dead. Vondi Curtis Hall is Sam Rhodes. He's in Die Hard 2 and Eve's Bayou. And Jack Thompson is Chairman DeVoe. He is in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil and Star Wars Attack of the Clones. So
I want to say too, and I forget the guy's. Wait a minute, who plays Damar in Deep Space Nine? Is that Bob Gunton? Because I want to.
I think so.
I want to say that I saw that, and I'm like, why does that name? Whoever plays Damar, I think, is in this movie, because I saw it just in the credits, and I'm like, that name seems familiar, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Sorry,
yeah,
and I'm sorry, Andy. I'm sorry, kind of a Deep Space Nine. So any shout out for that? I'd like to throw that in here. So
did you say Geek Face 9? What?
Yeah.
Well played.
No, that's about right.
Yeah. That's exactly. Yes.
I don't even want to get into the probable adult film names that take after Deep Space Nine. I'm sure there's a lot of deep, a lot of 69s, and a lot of who knows what.
Just a few in there.
I can only imagine.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know.
So a couple of quick trivia things in here. The term broken arrow refers to a U.S. military accident involving nuclear weapons, but supposedly the specific event in this movie is technically what would be called an empty quiver, which would be the theft or loss of a nuclear weapon. So, I don't know. Artistic license, that's fine. Helen Hunt was supposed to be the original choice for Park Ranger Terry Carmichael, but she declined this one to join the production of the movie Twister, which also came out this year. So,
wow, that's a very high art, high-minded move of hers.
Yes, yeah. Christian Slater, as kind of already mentioned, Samantha Mathis was also in Pump Up the Volume, so the two of them played opposite each other in Pump Up the Volume in 1990. Read an interview with Samantha Mathis who said, because I think in some other scenes, maybe some deleted scenes, stuff that was cut out, there was a little bit more of a kind of a love interest aspect to the relationship in this movie. And she said, times where they were filming scenes where they were supposed to be kissing, she said, I've worked with him before. I worked with him on Pump Up the Volume. It's kind of like kissing my brother. So, and I'm sure as Hollywood actors go, and they're in so many projects together, they get to know each other. I'm sure that sometimes those type of scenes can get to be a little awkward and just kind of becomes a job. So it's, not anything untoward as people might think it might become, but And then the other thing I saw in here, I want to take just a minute and feature this real quick because I'd heard this before. I'd heard this sound effect before, but I didn't in my brain. I didn't register exactly what it was called or why it was called that. We're all familiar with the Wilhelm scream, right? We know that from movies. I think I got the Wilhelm scream right here. Let's see. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Wilhelm scream. This movie doesn't introduce us to, but this movie is where another famous Hollywood scream gets its name. I'm sure you've heard this scream before because it's in everything. Like just as much as the Wilhelm scream is in a bunch of movies, the Howie scream. This was a scream sound effect that was used, I want to say, for the first time in 1980. And it had been used in all kinds of different productions. Gets used in one of my favorites, Army of Darkness in 1992. But this scream sound effect is used over and over and over again since the early 80s, but it only gets its official nickname with this movie. It's called the Howie scream because it's the scream that Howie Long's character makes when he falls to his death.
That's weird because it's similar to the sound that I make when I see Howie Mandel act or try to make a joke.
Yeah.
There's a nice symmetry to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Did you guys, before I jump into, the synopsis and we jump into recapping the major moments, all that stuff, did anybody else have any trivia they had read about, found, wanted to share?
I think is it the only movie that Samantha Mathis was in the 90s where she does not have blonde hair? I would wager on that. And she's got
dyed her hair. That's right. I did read that. She dyed her hair because it didn't look right with Travolta's hair, maybe? Because it was,
I was just assuming it was
tips or something.
I just assumed it was a character choice. Like, well, she's the kind of girl who's going to fight. We got to have her be a brunette. I just assumed it was some executive who pushed the brunette button and said, "Okay, this is what you're going to do." But who knows?
The brunette button, I love it.
It's like, well, usually the brunette is the the evil mean girl. I guess you could take a universal example from Legally Blonde. But anyway, that's a different direction for film, I guess. We can talk about a different episode, blondes versus evil brunettes, right? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, real quick, we give you, as always, we try to sum it up in a quick synopsis here in our favorite Don LaFontaine style, and then we'll play the audio of the trailer for you, and then we'll kind of recap the top 10 major moments in this movie, and then after we do that, we're going to dive into our deeper thoughts, and that is primarily where we get into our discussion of when was the first time we saw it, what works for us, what doesn't work, that kind of stuff. So here is the synopsis for you. In a world where nuclear annihilation is a button press away, could be the brunette button, who knows, one man will betray a lifetime of service for the ultimate payday. When Major Vic Deakins leaves his co-pilot for dead in the Utah desert, Captain Hale must team up with a local park ranger to avert nuclear disaster. One mission, 2 stolen nukes. The clock is ticking towards total destruction.
They are America's first line of defense. Best of friends.
Ready, Captain? Snap of the Earth. Here we go.
Fierce competitors.
Very nicely done. Almost as good as me.
Ready to protect our nation against any threat.
Carrying the nukes. You love having the power of God at your fingertips.
Not tonight, buddy.
But what if the enemy is one of them?
What the hell are you doing?
We got pilots down.
We got ourselves a broken arrow.
A broken what?
It's what we call it when we lose a nuclear weapon.
I don't know what's scarier, losing nuclear weapons, or that it happens so often there's actually a term for it.
The only thing more dangerous than what he knows.
They believe they've got an exposed core. They got to send in a nuclear emergency search team. By the time they find us, we'll be gone.
Is what he's prepared to do.
$250 million by 0900 Utah time. If you have not...
Good God.
I don't know what the big deal is. I really don't.
But there's one thing
Smile, boys. We're about to retire.
he didn't count on.
I know his mind works. You gotta let me go after him.
Outstanding, Hal. That's the spirit.
We're
Would you mind not shooting at the thermonuclear weapons?
And what are we doing?
If you enter the wrong code 3 times, the nuke goes dead.
Unless, of course, I already thought of that ahead of time. You just activated a nuclear warhead, my friend. The clock is ticking. Care for a Coke or something?
John Travolta.
You lose.
Christian Slater.
You're out of your mind.
Ain't it cool?
Broken Arrow. A John Woo film.
All right, our 10 major moments for this one. Again, we kind of break the plot down into a real quick flyby. And in this one, flyby could mean something totally different. We could be in a B-3 bomber flying by. But top 10 major moments of this movie to kind of condense it down for you. If you haven't seen it in a while, or if you haven't seen it at all, then we'll give you the quick overview of the whole thing. As always, if you have not seen this movie at all, we recommend pausing the podcast, go watch it, and then come back, because it's always going to be better if you've had a chance to watch the movie before we talk about it. But we know how podcasts go. You might just be listening in the car, mowing your lawn, whatever, and having fun. But we do always recommend pause this, go watch the movie, and we'll come on back. We'll be here. Don't worry. All right, we start off with a little bit of a boxing match. Before their mission, Deke and Riley spar in a boxing ring. This kind of establishes Deke's aggressive alpha male dominance over the younger, maybe more honorable partner, maybe a little bit more naive partner. Then we get into, during a secret B-3 stealth bomber exercise, Deakins suddenly attacks Hale, ejecting him from the plane before jettisoning 2 B-83 nuclear warheads and staging a crash. A USAF team led by Max Wilkins attempts to recover these nukes, but they are ambushed and killed by mercenaries working for Deke and the traitorous Master Sergeant Kelly. After surviving the ejection, Hale is detained by Park Ranger Terry Carmichael, but quickly wins her trust and recruits her to help him track down the stolen weapons. The classic, I've got the gun, but now I'm going to turn around and give it back to you kind of a deal. It's Chekhov's gun reversal, I think is what it's technically called in film school. Yeah. Hale and Carmichael pursue the mercenaries to an abandoned copper mine, which Deakins has turned into his operational headquarters. To stop Deakins, they dump an armed nuke down a deep mine shaft. It detonates, creating an electromagnetic pulse that destroys a rescue helicopter and allows the pair to escape via an underground river. This is one of the reasons I could not watch this movie with my lovely wife, because she hates EMPs. Like, anytime it comes up in a movie or TV show, she's like, "No, I don't even want to hear about EMPs. Like, they freak me out."
I thought you were going to say she says EMP3s, and I was going to say, I love your wife so much.
Well, that would be funny too, but
that would be great.
Yeah, it's the sound an EMP makes. It's condensed into an EMP3. Yeah.
What if you have an EMP on an MP3? Is it as good as an MP4 or not?
That's a great question.
It makes me think of that the Sacha Baron Cohen skit where he's Ali G, and he's trying to tell Steve Nash that he's the MP3, even though he's the MVP. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip. He's like, "So last year, the season, you were the MP3. No, I was the MVP."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or it's the Good Morning Vietnam. It's seeing how the VP is such a VIP. Shouldn't we keep the PC on the QT?
Yeah.
Because if it leaks to the VC, it could end up MIA, and we all be put out on KP.
Indeed.
I totally remember that line word for word.
He could do that whole movie if we let him.
That's his movie right there.
So the problem is if we come back from any kind of like a break here on the podcast, and I say anything like, "And we're back. Here's the news. All the news that's new and approved by the U.S. Army, the sweetest smelling army in the world." I'll keep going.
So that's his Caddyshack, or every movie's his Caddyshack, maybe.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have several, but that's the one that I listened to way too much as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good one.
My dad bought the soundtrack on cassette tape, and as a, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, I basically stole it and secretly listened to it in my room all the time.
Nice,
good classic rock and some oldies music there, but some of the other stuff I'm not sure a 9-year-old should have heard and repeated.
But how great was that soundtrack that, like, it was a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it was like a comedy tape all in one. I mean, yes. It really was good.
Perfect.
It was very, very good.
Perfect. All right. After murdering his own financier, Pritchett, for doubting his plan, because Pritchett was also in Shawshank Redemption, wasn't he? He was the warden in Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. He's a jerk in every movie he's in.
I know.
Pretty much, right?
He does it so well.
Yeah. He was being so obtuse.
What did you call me?
Yeah. Deakins moves the remaining warhead onto a train because at this point, why not? We've had B-3 bombers, we've had helicopters, now we've got trains. It's the action movie version of planes, trains, and automobiles. And his plan is to hold the city of Denver hostage for ransom. Hale and Carmichael then infiltrate the moving train, leading to a massive shootout that results in the helicopter crash death of Colonel Wilkins. After Hale knocks Kelly off a bridge to his death, and we get the awesome Howie scream, he engages Deakins in a brutal final battle for control of the remote detonator. Hale eventually overpowers Deakins, disarms the warhead, and leaps off the train just as it collides with detached boxcars, sending Deakins and the nuke into a fiery explosion. And I love the whole, just the motion of the train crashing and then the nuke, just flies backwards into Deakins' chest. Just that entire scene is so much fun there. All right. Those are our major moments. And now it's time for our deeper thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot.
Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
This is where we dive into our discussion on this movie. And we start off with our typical question. Our first question is, do you remember the first time you saw this? Was it a movie theater watch? Was it VHS? Was it much later? I don't think there's any of us here that probably saw it for the first time recently, but I don't want to assume anything. So, Andy, you had already kind of mentioned you saw this one in the theater when it came out.
Yeah, it's. It was sort of sold on the concept of the film and who is behind it by, my film school roommate. So, it's one of those things that a lot of times I can remember actually where I was when I saw it. I don't remember specifically what theater, but I know I'd seen it a couple times. So back in the 90s, one of the bigger music venues, one of the bigger theater music venues in Chicago is called the Vic Theater. It's on Sheffield, about, maybe half a mile down the road from Wrigley Field. And when there weren't bands there, on the weekends, they would have what was called Brew and View. So they always played second-run movies. So you'd see a movie that you liked that came out, back then, like 4, 6, 8 months ago, and pay $3 and see that in 2 other movies. So I know that I saw Broken Arrow there, and you were allowed to smoke in theaters and smoke some other stuff back then too. So it was great. But I think I saw it like in a legit downtown theater among families who were just probably there to see the probably the next action movie. And it's funny that I think you mentioned Face Off with Nicolas Cage. I feel like John Travolta and Nicolas Cage are cut from the same cloth in terms of acting caliber. I was going to say the opening boxing scene is great because it reminds me. Well, I guess it made clear that John Travolta can box better than he can act. Yeah. And I'm not trying to dig on him. Like, we know what he is. He's, not every actor needs to be Christoph Waltz or Emily Watson. But, there's just a certain, I'll put it this way. Comparing John Travolta to a band, I'd say he's Kiss. He was huge in the 70s. A lot of flash, good for the camera. But there's only a certain amount of talent that's there. Let's face it. So I kind of knew that was going to be what it was, but at the same time, I was crazy about Pulp Fiction. I'd probably seen it 10 times at that point. I'm like, F it. I'm going to see whatever Travolta's in because he just pulled off the biggest, career comeback ever and made, Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite movies. And maybe Tarantino's more responsible for that. But, I kind of knew what it was going to be about. And, it was one of those few movies that I actually went to see on opening night. So,
yeah. Bo, Pat, what about you guys? When was the first time you saw this one? Was this a movie theater watch for either of you guys?
Not for me. I think we're in the, I feel like this whole year has been this for me. Because we were still a little young, 96, to maybe have seen this in the theater. But,
yeah, Bo, you and I would have been, what, 15, about to turn 16?
Yeah, depending on what month of the year it was. So, Yeah.
Andy, just to give Andy some background, Bo and I actually went to high school together. Like, we've been friends for a really long time.
Yeah.
And we're both up kind of in the northern suburbs. We both went to Libertyville High School up here. So we were both same grade, same class, like all the same friends. So whenever we're kind of like, hey, were we both too young for this? We actually know each other from that far back. So,
the aisles at Blockbuster more likely than not, right? You see Christian Slater and John Travolta, and you see some explosions in some trailers. You're like, okay, like why not? You know, at that point, you're 15, 16. You're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, like, you know, no surprise, but you know, with the John Travolta movie, but you know, some great random one-liners come out of this, and I still use some of them to this day. Don't shoot at the tactical nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Thermonuclear
Thermonuclear weapons.
weapons,
Thermonuclear weapons. But that is still one of the greatest, driest lines in a heist movie ever. Like, please do not shoot. I love it. Love it.
Well, separate from the lines, does John Travolta have like a smoking coach who teaches how to hold the cigarette in that certain sort of, you know, asinine way that just pisses you off, like makes you, it illustrates, I mean, despite his acting, like it illustrates what a character he is by the way he holds a cigarette. And I think you could probably do a study of the same thing in Face Off, that Nicolas Cage doesn't have a face and he's smoking a cigarette. Yeah. You know, with a little bit of attitude. So anyway, sorry to keep interrupting. I keep thinking about
no. It's a great
things that
call
shine out of this movie.
There is an affect to that, and it is central to this movie. Like, he always has that cigarette.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what does he say when he walks into the meeting that one time? Does he say something like, what does the general say? He's like, are we suddenly the same rank, or did my office suddenly become a smoking lounge? Or I forget what the line is, but he's like, oh yeah, sorry. Like again, like just trying to be a complete a-hole and, you know, make it, oh yeah, sorry about that. I guess I completely forgot I brought my cigarette into your office when we're here for a briefing.
Yeah.
Pat, what about you? When was your first time watching this one?
It would have been in the first year that it came out, and it would have been movie night. It would have been movie night up in college. You know, we probably rented it, or someone got it from the Blockbuster. Or would that have been Family Video? That would have been Family Video up there. But we got it from Family Video and watched it. It might not have even been like 96 when we saw it, like when it first came out, but within the first year or two, we saw it.
Yeah. I feel like for me, this was, because I remember seeing this one in the theater, but I would have been too young probably unless they just completely ignored me buying a movie ticket.
Well, you did have that uncle.
I did. He didn't live around here, though. He was down in
that's
Texas.
fair.
So,
That's
yeah.
fair.
No, actually, I want to say my dad might have bought the ticket for me.
Oh,
okay.
Well, I mean, you know.
And but I don't remember going with my dad. I think my dad was just like, you want to go see this movie? Here, I'll buy the ticket for you so you can get in.
Love that.
I know. I was like, okay, cool. Couple extra bucks for popcorn.
Yeah, right. You know,
so I do remember seeing this one in the theater for the first time, but I do remember also watching this several times over the years, just whenever, and I've mentioned this before, like sometimes my wife and I will, or just me on my own, will get into this kick of, I want to watch a bunch of, Andy, kind of like what you were saying, I want to watch a bunch of John Travolta movies. Like, I'm feeling nostalgic for Hitchcock, so for the next 3 weeks, I'm watching nothing but Hitchcock movies. And there was a stretch of time during high school, and then again, even a few years later, where I was like, you know, I want to go back and I want to revisit some Travolta movies, and not all of them good. You know, I want to go back and I want to watch Pulp Fiction, you know, for the 75th time. I want to
watch Phenomenon too, then.
Yes, and we're doing that one this month too. So yeah,
and Michael.
Yeah, Phenomenon and Michael are later this month. Yeah, Staying Alive. That sequel to Saturday Night Fever. That very much not good sequel to Saturday Night Fever that I've seen way too many times.
That I feel like he was trying to like redeem himself for when they did Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
I will say it is, and you can tell me whether you think this or not, it is probably a lighter lift when you think about it. If you get really ambitious and you're like, I'm going to watch a bunch of Aubrey Plaza movies, or I'm going to watch a bunch of Parker Posey movies, or a bunch of, I don't know, all the Kozlowski movies. You know, that takes a little more brain power for sure. Yeah. Whereas the Travolta stuff really doesn't. I mean, you can kind of not feel bad about watching that 90 minutes of Phenomenon and or whatever. You know, it's a different bag. It's definitely it's a lighter appetizer, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it that works for us? And it might be different. Andy, you kind of alluded to this earlier. It might be different for us than the first time we watched this to watching it now, 30 years later. And we'll get into what doesn't work here in just a minute. But what is it that, let's stay positive for a second. What is it that works? Like, what is it about this movie for each of you guys that you're like, I love this. Like, this is my bread and butter. What works in Broken Arrow?
Well, I think the pace of it works. So about 2 weeks ago, my son's back from college and he wanted to watch The Fugitive. And there's an interesting reason behind why he wanted to watch it. But I was like, I haven't seen this since it came out. So I watched it, and I mean, The Fugitive is, you're basically given in the same way that the Shawshank Redemption is set out, you get what the premise and the plot is in the first 5 minutes. But in The Fugitive, he's incarcerated on a bus that rolls over within 10 minutes. And, 13 minutes in, Tommy Lee Jones is there being the hotshot who's running the investigation in the middle of some podunk town in Southern Illinois. So, they are definitely, these two movies, The Fugitive and Broken Arrow, are definitely, they're meant to be blockbusters. They're meant to cater to an audience that's not going to want to sit there and unpack the dialogue the way you might with a Guy Ritchie film or a Tarantino film or Linklater even. So yeah, the pace is really good. It kind of gets you on board if you're on board right away. And there's no mistaking about what's going on, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and really what the plot is, even if you don't know exactly what direction it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat, what works for you in this one?
I really, really like the pieces of it that are, I would say, John Woo's style. I really like that. And I've been actually trying to work through all of his movies, like the back catalog and, all of that to, just to understand that more. And especially I tend to like action films, right? And so I like to see the ones that are like, okay, this guy influenced, all these films that came after. And I can't speak like an expert on it because I'm really trying to break it down. Up until this point, I'd really only seen basically his movies he did in the U.S., right? Like this and Mission Impossible 2, Windtalkers. I'm totally drawing a blank on a couple of the other ones. Anyways, I really like that. I like seeing for me, I like watching action movies. I like watching war pictures as well, but I can't say that I'm necessarily entertained by them. Action movies, I can sit back and be entertained, munch the popcorn and realize, okay, I'm seeing a lot of violence, but it's all supposed to be kind of like fun and, kind of a, not like deep kind of thing. And so I can sit back and watch that. I love seeing the circular motion. I love seeing, the slow motion shots, the flying through the air, almost ridiculous. Well, I was about to say almost ridiculous level of stunts, but I'll just go ahead and say it. The ridiculousness of some of the stunts. I have fun with that. So I think that really worked in the movie. And this isn't supposed to be like an Irish, backhanded compliment, but the silly, campy dialogue, I don't want to overload my negative, what doesn't work for me category. So I'll say it works for me when I can just sit there with a smirk and say, okay, I see where they're going. And what sums it all up for me is, when the helicopter pilot is, I think, chasing down the girl, and I think the line is actually, hey, let's have some fun. And then they go after, and I think that just kind of sums it up. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to look at these dialogue and some of the things being said, yeah, I think we can just have fun with that. And just, these characters are supposed to be, it's kind of on a ridiculous level. Like Bo, you said, don't shoot the thermonuclear weapon, when he's running and John Travolta just kind of barks out, hit him, run him over, like that kind of stuff. Okay, I can get into that and enjoy it. But primarily what I really like about the movie is like I said, is just that, how the action, the slow motion, the flying through the air. And I keep describing it as circular things spinning around, and I have the gun, it's pointed at you. You have the gun, it's pointed at me, but I've got the knife, it's at your throat. But I just like seeing that flow to it. So that very much works for me.
Yeah. In that style that you're talking about, they've kind of coined the term gun fu.
Yeah.
With that style. And that's for me too. That's kind of what works for me in this movie is, Andy, as you mentioned, it's the John Travolta-ness of this movie that's the easy entry point. I don't have to, it's a movie I can put on in the background. Like, as a teacher, there are plenty of times where I was up late at night grading stuff, and maybe sometimes I just want to put a movie on in the background while I'm trying to grade some papers, get that stuff done. And John Travolta movies, especially the action movies, are ones that I don't really have to pay too much attention. I can zone out for 20 minutes, come back and be like, I know exactly where we're at right now. I don't need to think through too much of this, and it's just fun to do it. But Pat, to your point too, I think the John Woo aspect of this is a lot of fun. I love that style of action movie. I mean, we get it in, you get it in John Wick, you get it in Matrix, you get it in, what was that one? Equilibrium. There's another one that came out in the early 2000s called Time and Tide. It's got a great, 45, 30 minutes at the end of the movie. It's just this, just mad dash of action and gunfire and everything. But that very kind of stylized, that mixture of the Hong Kong kung fu and the gunplay type stuff, the Mexican standoffs we get. I love the mashup of all those things. And I think while this is going to be kind of a half what works and a half what doesn't work for me. This one has it, but it's very watered down. So I do feel like this is a bit of a watered down John Woo when you compare it to some of his other ones. But I think the charisma of the John Travolta, the Christian Slater, the Delroy Lindo, the Samantha Mathis, all the other people in this movie, I think the charisma of their characters, like the charming nature of their characters, whether they're a villain or whether they're a hero, I think makes up for the watered down John Woo stylized action piece of it. And so overall, the movie still works for me. But I think the things I really, really enjoy about it is if John Woo had been able to, ramp up some of his own style a little bit more than he did.
I had heard one time, I had read on this one that supposedly the producers or the higher ups or whoever, he kind of had to make a strong case for doing his style in this movie. Like he would try to do it one way. Oh, you don't want slow motion shots. You want regular speed. Oh, well, he's trying to do this, which then begs the question, why did you hire this guy and bring him in and then tell him?
Right. You can kind of picture the suits probably standing off to the side. Like, excuse me, was it realistic for him to be holding two guns at once?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Why is he holding the two guns sideways and diving into a flock of doves while firing in slow motion? I don't understand this. Can we do it? Maybe do it a slightly different way.
And that right there just kind of makes me think of, any other line of work where the management or the administration or whatever, it's like, if you're bringing me in because I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, why are you questioning every little thing? Yeah. Anyways, being said,
it goes back to the West Wing. Let Bartlett be Bartlett.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's like,
woo be woo.
Yeah. But it's interesting because right about this time, within a couple of years, wasn't that when Rush Hour came out? Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker?
Around this time, yeah.
And I want to say that was supposed to be the first. Oh, well, Jackie Chan, they're going to bring the, Hong Kong Kung Fu style into like a mainstream Hollywood movie and so on. And I had read about that the first Rush Hour movie they had talked and they said, well, Jackie Chan, a lot of those action sequences, they were used to like rehearsing and practicing like one choreographed fight scene for 3 months. And then, they get the plot in the movie, the rest of the movie, they'd pack that in and make it go. When he came and they did that in like Hollywood in a US style, well, that one action scene, as opposed to taking 3 months and putting it all together, that became 3 days. And it was like done. And I don't know that it's kind of a similar thing here where I feel like, okay, well, we're bringing you in, but we're going to let you kind of do what you do, but then we're going to question it and we're not going to commit to it fully, which I agree with you because I think it's unfortunate. But again, I'll save a lot of that for what didn't work for me. And I'll come up for air and let Bo give his piece. And if Andy has any other thoughts that he wants to add in and all that kind of thing.
Bo, what do you got? What works for you in this one?
I think we hit on a lot of it, but it's the pacing. It's the thrill a minute. Like, it never slows down. It never lets you off the hook. You think things are going to slow down, and then they hit you with something else. It's the Christian Slater and John Travolta. They hold up their end and they do the job you expect them to do, right? Like, we've talked about how, it's not high concept. We're not watching a film. We're watching a popcorn movie, and we like it because of that. The action's fun. The Howie Long cracks me up whenever I see him in a movie just because it's Howie Long. Like, come on. You're a football player and a broadcaster, and you've made some movies too. There's a lot to like just because it keeps you entertained, you know? Are you not entertained? I was.
So what doesn't entertain us in this movie? What is it that doesn't work here?
Well, I mean, to kind of counter Patrick, I think the dialogue for me, this isn't the kind of movie that now that I've seen it again, remember what it is, that I'm going to gravitate toward or recommend to somebody, unless that I know that like they have no bandwidth for, a Ritchie film or something I think is a little more substantive. I mean, I'll admit I'm not the kind of person who goes out to see the latest blockbuster, but I love a good action movie. I mean, I love a lot of the stuff that Jason Statham has done. I like that movie has evolved so that you got Jason Statham and The Rock. They can be tough guys, but they have the smart ass banter that goes on and really good dialogue versus just being all about the pace and all about moving to the next explosion. And maybe that's just like a kind of more of a piece of what the mainstream big budget 90s film was about. I'm willing to accept that. So, but it didn't make the dialogue did not make me like the film any more than what I remember that I liked it as in the 90s.
Yes, it's a bit of cheese, cheese on top of your action movie.
Yeah.
Patrick, you had started to lean into some stuff that you didn't care for in this one. So what doesn't work?
And well, first of all, and I'd have to say, because I was kind of trying to tread the line with the dialogue, and Andy, I really liked what you said, because that summed up kind of how I felt about the dialogue too. It was like, if I can put it in my head that this is going to be campy and kind of like watching 60s Batman, and holy rusted metal Batman. Oh, okay, I see what you did there. All right, ha. There's a snake in my boot. Okay, that's good. But otherwise, it's like that dialogue, it can take you out of it. And kind of going along with what I was saying before is I felt that a lot of, and it's easy just to say the writing, and it wasn't the pacing, but just kind of how things unfolded in the movie. A lot of it didn't quite make much sense. And it was like, we need a quippy line, or we need all these things to go together just so we can get to this little action set piece. And then we're going to kind of let John Woo direct it in his way, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. And I'll give an example is, when he parachutes out of the plane and the park ranger shows up, freeze, and it's already, we're up at 11. And it was kind of like, okay, and has the gun on him. Okay, gun drawn. I don't get it. Why is she approaching him already, like ready to kind of like gun him down? And she doesn't know what he's doing. Well, there's probably a parachute blowing because he just came walking out of the field. She saw the plane go over and ostensibly saw the thing crash. Why is she confused when there's a guy standing there in a military uniform? He probably just ejected. And then he turns around, but as opposed to saying, hold on, I got ID, like doing all that, it was immediately, I'm going to try and it's like, that's not making much sense. But they just needed to do that to get to the point where she pulled the gun, he reversed the gun, she pulled the knife, and we just had the big thing.
What was it to establish her character? I remember Marion from the Indiana Jones movie to kind of position her as this feisty character who's going to not just be the babe, but fight a little, which, that's probably what I think it is. Because, it doesn't make sense that you would approach a downed pilot with a gun in freaking middle of Utah where, it doesn't seem that threatening.
Right.
So I think it's probably a character choice. But yeah, you're right that it probably isn't really. There was a lot of thought put into the plot and the writing and the development of that character. Or development of the character, maybe not how to present it. Like, we got to come up with a scene here. We got to have them meet. We're just going to throw some down and have them get in a little scuffle because it's interesting for 2 minutes.
Right, and it gives you a chance to have a little bit of that flavor of what John Woo does in films. We just got to the action where they're doing the gun reversal, and the other one, and I'm being long-winded, but the other one was when John Travolta goes bad. I'm kind of like, wow, that escalated quickly. Up until this point, he was kind of like a jerk. He didn't care about the higher ups. He was kind of the superior guy trying to help the younger guy. Kind of teach him in the way, and hey, you can't go all the way. And that's why, which was kind of a trope of movies, right? The But then all of a sudden he's like got that, they lean in and they got that evil look. And I was having fun with that. Like, I like how that camera went. But then he's pulling the gun and trying to shoot him in the airplane and the whole thing. And it's kind of like, well, that doesn't make much sense. Like, why not just pull the ejection seat? Or why don't you pull a Thunderball where you put some kind of a knockout potion in the guy's air tank or whatever? But again, I get that. Okay, well, they're just trying to get to that point where he pulls the gun and it's kind of coming down like this. And then the other guy pulls the gun and then there's the scuff. But it wasn't done in a very plausible way. And so just to wrap it up, like I said, I started watching, what was it? Was it The Killer? Anyways, I started watching earlier John Woo movies, and it was like, yeah, anytime there's an action sequence or anytime there's a chase or anytime there's a scuffle, it makes sense within the continuity of the film of how they got there. And there's a whole thing where they build it up. They build up the tension. They set it up. When there's a standoff, you know why there's a standoff. And that was just lacking in this. So I think it was just this kind of random, I don't know why we're here. I enjoy it. I love seeing the motion on screen, but I don't know why we're here. And when you're standing in the helicopter and actually have to like say, we're in a standoff. Whee! What a predicament. It's kind of like, really? Did he really just say that? I mean, why not just turn and look at the camera and say, check it out, we're going to do a standoff now.
There was a lot of explaining in this movie, everything from the diagram in the shutdown copper mine that says copper mine layout or whatever it said to the explosion under the earth where basically John Travolta explains the Howie Long, what just happened, and the EMP we talked about for a couple minutes there. That I guess it seems like the film is it's one of those films that is not structurally complex, so that the fact they had to kind of, like you're an improv scene with no props, like explain to the audience what just happened is a little corny. But who knows? Maybe they just maybe they thought, well, these are the people who go to see Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys. They can't be that smart, so we got to explain everything to them. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyways, that's kind of what took me out of it a little bit. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, whereas Tarantino would actually come up with 10 minutes of good dialogue. I mean, I take it back to like Tarantino. We all knew what a TV pilot was in the 90s, but they have, Samuel L. Jackson explaining to John Travolta what a TV pilot is and makes it completely freaking interesting the whole time. Like, it wasn't bad. So you could pull it off, but yeah, I guess you got to pay really good screenwriters to make the explanation super interesting, which they were not in this movie, but at least we weren't lost, right?
Right. And I will say, like, I enjoyed Mission Impossible too. Like, I love the whole franchise, and I know that we've discussed before, well, is Mission, but like, I watched Mission Impossible too, and there was a nice flow. There was a build up to all the action sequences. You knew why it was happening and fit in. Watching the John Woo's films from Hong Kong, again, there was a build up. When you got into a standoff, you knew why you were there. You knew how it flowed into it. And a lot of times it really built up the suspense and the tension. And this was just a little bit more like, okay, well, we need them to kind of flip the guns around and jump around and all this kind of stuff. So we're just going to put it in there. And I think that would, like you said, put in some dialogue, or even just give us some action, give us something just to, even if we're just visually, to know why we got to this scene, why that would make sense within the context of the movie.
Yeah.
No, let's both think.
What didn't work, Bo? What didn't work?
Well, we've hit on most, you guys covered a lot of it, but the dialogue is goofy. We talked about how the one-liners are fun. There's also a lot of dumb in there. Pat referenced the tell, don't show moments where they had to use words, what was obviously happening. And some of that is just laziness. Some of it is, I think Andy said it best, not trusting your audience to get it.
Well, I did look up that Graham Yost wrote Hard Rain too, so come on. Anyway.
I think it's a strange movie in that I think a lot of the things that work are also the things that don't. It depends on what frame of mind you're in or what mood you're in. If you're in a mood for a shoot 'em up, you're gonna love things about this movie that if you're not, you're gonna hate, because it is campy, and even the stuff Delroy Lindo is so fun, but every line he has is over the top and contrived and doesn't feel organic. When the explosion happens and he is able to say in the first 5 seconds, it was underground, everything's going to be okay. You don't know that yet.
You kind of want him to say, this is my explosion, damn it.
This is not possible.
It's like what would Robert Blake say? He would say, this is my explosion, damn it. Or this is my disaster.
And so, like, the timing of some of the timing of some of the events doesn't feel right either. And you can hand wave that away and say, well, time passed and you didn't know, but just some of the scenes that cut back and forth, you're like, there's no way they already got to that doesn't make sense. But it's an action movie. I mean, it's, we could sit here and say, the speed that they travel at in a lot of movies doesn't make sense. But I think a lot of this movie comes down to frame of mind. If you are looking for this type of movie, if you are looking for action with not a perfect plot, if you're just sort of looking for I think we've said it already a couple times, a popcorn movie, you're in. It's fun. But man, if you start to analyze this more than that first level, you start to see a lot of the stuff.
And why, when they went out to back him up, why was it Delroy Lindo and like one other guy in the helicopter?
Well, it's because you needed. Why didn't we're paying Delroy Lindo? You wanted him on the screen more.
Yeah,
but you're
and then
right.
when they bumped him off,
it from back there. I mean, it's
or just have more guys in the helicopter. And then when they bumped him off, it was kind of like, so he's gone.
Well, that was true about everybody. Okay, he's done now.
We're gonna need some more FBI guys.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think, and I already mentioned some of this, I think what doesn't work for me is I mentioned the John Woo style kind of gets diluted, that I wish there was more of that, have him do more of what he's good at, more of the gun fu. The other thing too, I think, and we did The Rock not that long ago, and I think there's bits and pieces of this that remind me of The Rock in that there's some like tonal whiplash that goes on. Like there's moments where where I think they want us to take this seriously as a missing stolen nuclear bomb thriller kind of movie. Some of the scenes want to be tense and they want us to be paranoid about what's going to happen here. And the others kind of turn into this like Con Air style popcorn chaos. To use your phrase, Bo, the popcorn movie. And I think because I was thinking about The Rock when I was watching this one, which is probably not good. Like I probably needed to just go watch The Rock instead. Right. But I'm watching this and I'm thinking there are times in The Rock where it's very like you get that whiplash from going like one scene to the next and the tone shifting, from a little bit of like over the top kind of comedy, but more of like, 90s action movie. It's funny in a 90s action movie kind of a way.
It's more camp than comedy when it comes down to it.
Right. This one felt campier than The Rock. I'm not saying The Rock is perfect, but having just watched that again recently, I'm comparing the two and I'm going, well, why didn't I enjoyed watching this one. I had fun watching this one, but why didn't this one, which feels very, very similar to The Rock in terms of the plot, in terms of the stuff that's going on, even in terms of some of the characters and how they react to things, why did I still gravitate more towards The Rock, and why would I enjoy that more than this one? This one felt campier. There was something about, and I know there's campy moments in The Rock as well. This one felt campier, and to use a phrase that the kids stopped using 15 years ago, cringy. Like plenty of cringy moments in this one, whereas, and maybe it's just Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, but I felt things were a little less cringy in The Rock. So
Sean Connery's going to bring some weight to whatever, and I'm the Bond film fan who I don't actually think that Connery's the best Bond, by the way. So I'm not sure. I'm not a Sean Connery super fan. Sean Connery was a hot property in the 90s. I know you guys were in high school, but I was out of college, and every time I was at a party or something and Sean Connery's name popped up, 24-year-old women are like, "Oh my God, he's so hot." So he had that sheen to him ever since he popped up at the end of Robin Hood. But yeah, I mean, just I think there's not really anybody. Okay, so first of all, I will say that maybe I didn't think of when you asked me what was good about this movie. This Broken Arrow is a casting professional's dream. I mean, think about all the great, and maybe some of them were not as well known back then, but all right, just weighting them now. Delroy Lindo, Vondie Curtis Hall, Howie Long, obviously the main stars of the movie, but also like Frank Whaley, Bob Gutton. And then like some people we've seen a million times, like it's this guy with the guy who plays Kurtwood Smith, who ends up on that 70s show. And then like Carmen Argenziano, who's just like kind of a badass looking like military dude. We've seen him in like 100 movies. So you had all that, but yeah, I guess the writing and the screenplay just didn't back them up. Whereas, yeah, you can't really screw up anything. I've never seen a superficial role that Sean Connery's been in. So just plug him into The Rock. That's half the deal. I just think that it's hard to screw up a film with him in it. So it's kind of an unfair battle, I think, to compare Broken Arrow to The Rock because of the Sean Connery factor.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
so don't feel bad.
Oh yeah.
And I get, and I wonder why did this become campy? Did they not know it was going to be that way when it came out? Was it kind of there was a committee kind of different influences in on this? I don't, and I might be way wrong, but the other John Woo movies I've seen, and like I said, I'm trying to work through his Hong Kong stuff too, which the few I've seen this week are incredible. I don't see the same level of campy. So where did that come in and how did that come about? And again, like I'm okay with that. It's okay. It's going to be this kind of an action movie as opposed to The Rock. Well, but then you get to these scenes like when the guy lands early on when the couple is sitting there with the campfire and the one guy comes up and he's like, I got to talk to you about your campfire. Oh, geez. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. And you got that scene where the blood's splaying over the tent and all that. Okay, that was a little bit more intense. That to me kind of is like you were talking about different tonal shifts. Okay, that wasn't what I expected from a campy movie like this, right?
Well,
like that to me is more like the Terminator when he's going down the list of all the different Sarah Connors, and suddenly, oh wow, just innocent randos are getting shot. I didn't expect that from this movie because everything else was so silly. And so, where did this all how did it come together like that? Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'm obviously not a Hollywood insider. You guys know movies better than I do. But I would suspect, I mean, the timeline from signing whoever the talent was and the screenplay to putting it out probably wasn't a long time. It's a big budget film where they knew what they wanted to do, knew what they wanted to achieve. We're going to bring John Woo to America, name recognition there, and it's going to have the star of the day, John Travolta, and he's going to do action. You don't need 2 years to plan that out. They probably punched it out. I'm sure that if we looked it up, that the shoot was probably like 3 weeks, and the editing was probably the lion's share of it. They're not looking for like, how can we improve the literary quality of the dialogue here? Like, it's just, we're going to put it out. It's going to make 2-3 times what the budget is. And in a world where 7 out of 10 films lose money, this is definitely a big studio production, and I think that's where the influence weighed in on what you're talking about, Patrick. I mean, that's got to be what it is, because John Woo was an independent film director in Hong Kong when Hong Kong was capitalist, and it was a different, it was a little bit of a Wild West scenario there, but also no interference at that point in his career from the top or the bottom. And you can say, I don't know, there are a couple of directors where it's like they've never been pushed out of their creative mojo. Tarantino's one of the few. Richard Linklater's another one, but he hasn't had the success that Tarantino has had. So I don't know, maybe this is it had it gone the right way, eventually for the next movie, Brad Pitt steps in and wants to executive produce, and then like Guy Ritchie's second film, you do whatever the hell you want, and it's a masterpiece, in terms of the dialogue and the action, and there's no camp. But when you're throwing something together for $50 million, that's probably going to be done in 9 months, and you're going to have some camp. It's just same. I guess that's what happened with The Fugitive and a lot of films in the 90s where it's like, let's get this thing out, and no one's going to think too hard about it, except for us now, I guess. But
30 years
they didn't have podcasts back then, right? So yeah,
right. All right. Well, before we wrap things up, we get into our segment where we do a loosely based on the movie or thoughts and ideas from the movie, our 3 questions segment. Final thoughts on Broken Arrow. Is Broken Arrow worth a watch for somebody who maybe has never seen this before? If it's somebody coming to it brand new, they've never seen it before, or maybe they saw it once 30 years ago and they don't remember much about it. Is this worthy of their hour and 48 minutes?
I mean, if you're an action film buff, it's your thing, yeah, maybe. My wife really loves Jason Bourne movies to the point where I have to say, I don't want to watch it again. We've seen it twice. But, we go look for movies that are Atomic Blonde that we saw a couple years ago. And there's a lot of now movies with women in strong roles as CIA and NSA agents. And there's a lot more out there. But, I think in the 90s, there obviously was some limits. I think unless you're really into the genre, you're really into the popcorn movie with action, I'd say probably no. But the kind of people that I talk to about movies and I recommend, I probably half of them don't listen to what I say and think, yeah, not interested in what Frye has to say. But the other half are probably going to say the same things that we've said about Broken Arrow. So it's not a terrible movie. If you know what you're getting into and that's your deal, great. But I'm not going to go around recommending, like, you really got to see this movie, highlight of the 90s. No, definitely not.
I would agree. I think it's if you're an action movie fan, this is your thing. If you're the guy who wants to see everything Travolta's been in or everything Christian Slater's been in, yeah, you need to see it. But it's not for everybody.
If I'm a Delroy Lindo completionist?
Yeah.
Or if you really have to see, if you want to see everything that French Stewart has been in.
There you go, right? There's another one, right? That's a great example. Then, yeah, you should see it. If you like popcorn movies, you should see it. If you just bought a new sound system for your home, for your house, and nothing else is on, but you can get a hold of this, go for it. The explosions alone will be worth the hour and a half, right?
If you want to see a director blow the entire helicopter budget.
How about it, right? I think the other group of people that this is for is the John Woo people. Like, if you want to see everything John Woo's done, you got to see this. It's part of his evolution. But yeah, it's not the greatest movie in the world. It's not one that I even asked my wife if she wanted to watch with me. I was like, nah, not her style.
Yeah,
however,
I didn't even bother.
Right. However, Face Off, I might. Right? A little different, a little better, a little more put together. She might enjoy it more. This one was just fun.
Do we even know who John Travolta's character was going to sell these nukes? I know that this Pritchard guy invested in it, but it's like, I guess the Russians weren't bad at this time. The Russians weren't the bad guys in 1996.
His whole plan hinged on the U.S. buying them back from him to keep him from blowing them up, which might have been a bluff. We don't really know. Yeah, it really, you put a magnifying glass up to too much, it falls apart really.
And then one of them went off, and he's like, right. he's blowing up one of them. That's okay. That was part of my plan.
But does he know the government doesn't pay their bills? Come on.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that like? Yeah, that's kind of like
in the Clinton
era, trash can. Remember a trash can?
It was about 2 years before we had a balanced budget and no national debt. So, but I don't think we're not going to read too much into this, right? And say, well, Clinton's going to pay off the debt, so they have the money to buy the nuclear bombs back because the economy's good. Yeah, don't think so.
Broken Arrow is the political thriller you didn't know you needed.
Yeah. I do want to say one thing is I did double check, and Casey Biggs was the name of the guy that played Damar, and he is in this film. He played some guy named Novacek. I got to go back and find it, but yeah. So he was in this film. And the second thing is, as we're talking about
it,
right?
Yeah. The other thing is, when we're talking about
the movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
The different action movies that we've had this year, right? Like, you have Michael Bay and The Rock, which is full of, how Michael Bay does things. You have an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie in Eraser, which is kind of like,
that's good, actually.
And it's not, and I'm a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. So, that one is like right out of the 80s playbook, and I love everything about it. But you hold those two, and it's like just different outlook on how the action genre is done. And then you put this one in there, which, again, it introduces John Woo, who isn't a new director, right? Like, it's just basically introducing some of his stylings. And so in 1 year, you have these 3 different takes on the action genre. And it's kind of pretty cool to see them all back to back. And like you were talking about, hey, well, in the 90s, this is how things were. And then you contrast that with Eraser, which really followed kind of more of the 80s playbook. And it was like, oh, that's interesting, just seeing how those things go back to back. And again, until we started doing these this year, I never really processed, wow, all of that came out in the same year, all those films. So it's fun to look at them and compare and contrast.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add other than what you guys have already said. I think it's, if you want to be a completionist with any of these other actors, with John Woo, it's definitely worth checking out. If you just love the often weird, wacky, crazy, stupid popcorn chaos, I'll use that word again. If you love the popcorn chaos of a 90s action movie, I think this is definitely in a selection of movies that if you want to see something that's very 90s. It's not the best of the 90s action movies by any stretch, but if you just want to, I don't know, if you just want to do like a 90s popcorn chaos action flick marathon, this one is probably worthy of throwing in. Maybe even just for having the John Travolta, Christian Slater, pairing right there, maybe just enough for it. But
and it's definitely less violent than Starship. If you really want to see people get blown up, crushed, picked apart, sliced in half, then go for Starship Troopers. But
absolutely,
it's definitely less violent, less gory.
Yeah. All right. It is now time for us we've discussed the movie. Now that we've let the ideas percolate a little bit, it's time for our 3 questions segment. So let's dive into 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, so 3 questions. This is in the same style as like the old school Daily Show when they used to do 5 questions at the end of the episode. Somewhat loosely related to the guest that they were interviewing on the show back in the old Craig Kilborn days, and even Jon Stewart, I think, did it for a while too. 3 questions. So 3 questions, maybe loosely based on this movie a bit. Question number 1, what is your favorite movie that features a nuke as a plot device?
Well, there's so many of them, isn't there?
Yeah. Is it bad that I think I can tell you the ones I don't like better than the ones I do?
Maybe.
Oh, I think I know your answer.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
And I was gonna steal it.
Is the bomb in play?
Is the what?
Is the bomb in play?
Well, see, now there might be multiple.
Well, no, because see, I don't think I like that one, which is...
Oh, you don't? Okay, all right.
So I have a problem with Sum of All Fears.
Yeah.
I felt they took the weakest plot from that book and turned it into a movie. And I'm not if I had to rank my Jack Ryan movies, that one is way down the list.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Friendly Fire podcast?
Oh, loved it. Yeah.
That was their favorite Jack Ryan movie. Do you remember that?
I know, and I just...
Wasn't that crazy?
And that's why they're gone now.
I can't. Like, there are things that make no sense to me.
They don't have a podcast anymore, so that's the problem, Pat.
Well, let's get this out of the way, just in case one of our hosts that couldn't be here tonight, Jeff Mazuka, is listening. His answer will definitely be Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
There you go.
And if Jeff is listening right now, there's probably like a contract put on my life. So
man, he's gonna try to kill you, I think.
Yeah, I think it's that scene in The West Wing when Josh Lyman is down and like they say something on the press conference and he's like hitting his head against the bed or whatever.
Yeah.
So Bo, what
did you think Bo was going to pick?
The Hunt for Red October.
Okay.
That's certainly on the list. Some things in here don't react too well to bullets. Part of why I struggle, and as I struggle with some of John's questions, it's very open-ended. He says, movie that includes a nuke. I mean, gosh, it just opens it up so much. I'm just trying to think, does the nuke go off? Does it not? But I think Pat is not wrong. I think the transitive property of that being one of my favorite movies ever, and it including a nuke, it has to be the one I say. I do have a honorable mention, but I think one of you might hit it, so I'll save it until we're all the way around the room.
Well, let me just say that the 90s actually, I don't know if you remember too much about this, but it seemed like pathogens were a lot more dangerous. There's 12 Monkeys. Mm-hmm. Beavis and Butthead Do America. I think Butthead disables the whatever the X4 or whatever that's supposed to kill everybody in America.
Contain yourself.
There's just so many films with nukes that I think they thought, it's the 90s. The Russians aren't a threat anymore. We're really worried about what might come out of a lab, strangely, 25 years before we have COVID.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a weak storyline link in GoldenEye. Like there's some nukes. I can't remember exactly. There's a lot of stuff going on in GoldenEye with Alex Trevelyan, and I think 006 was a really strong antagonist for James Bond, like one of the strongest ones in a long time. And I was someone who calls on Goldfinger, like, oh, I'm going to spray people, paint people to death and make them suffocate. Like that was a pretty terrible bad guy. So whenever you can have somebody who's actually seems evil and brings nukes into it, even if they're not kind of the main feature, I like that. But I'm not really as educated in this department as you guys are. So it's probably one that I'm forgetting that probably would be my favorite. I unfortunately don't have the greatest answer for this question, but I'd say pretty much any Bond film that I've seen is going to be among my favorites with a nuke. Because they play with nukes all the time in James Bond. So, hey.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Patrick, what do you got?
I might take one of everything I've heard so far. I think Hunt for Red October is right up there. I think that, well, you know what I was going to do? I was going to say, like you were talking about with Bond, and what's the one with Roger Moore where he's got to disarm the nuke, and it was one of the lesser, because I know the Roger Moore ones got supposedly a little campy and stuff, according to some, but there was one of the ones where he had to dress up as a clown and sneak into the circus.
Yeah, it was Octopussy.
That was Octopussy. Okay. Well, and maybe that was one of the more campier ones. I can't remember. In any event, I hear what you're saying with Bond. I'll be honest with you. I think my favorite franchise that deals with this would probably be Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought, especially with the first two films, and we talked about this when we covered them, the Terminator was just that fear of a nuclear attack that is inevitable. And
well, you get that whole nuclear nightmare scene with Linda Hamilton. It just
right in Terminator 2, but you never really live in that world. It just becomes a nightmare, and you only get flashes, and it kind of plays on our own fears, right? And I just think that really works. Like you said, the nuclear nightmare, and and I like checking out all the different Terminator kind of shows and movies and all that. And I know that some of them, okay, well, maybe this one wasn't as good as this one, and boy, they kind of took it in a wrong direction, and yada, 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 yada. That being said, I really liked it. Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say Terminator 2 is probably a good place to sort of end the 80s, because we all saw, I'm not sure how young you guys were when the day after came out on TV, I think in 1986, right? 87?
I think so, yeah.
It was. It had Steve Guttenberg in it, and it was a TV movie. So it wasn't, I thought graphically it was done well, but it didn't have the drama aspect to it. I feel like maybe Jason Robards was in it too, but to have that little sprinkle in Terminator 2 as a background thing. And I remember that scene where she's at the playground, and then she sees another version of herself outside the fence screaming, like people hide. That scene was probably 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and it had a huge impact, I think, on the psyche of the people watching the movie and sort of the underlying psyche of Terminator 2. So, yeah, I agree with Patrick. When there's a sort of suggestion of nuclear holocaust versus something that in the Humvee that might go off if we disable it, a lot more weighty. So, I would probably revise my position here to go with Patrick, because I think that as a drama device is a lot stronger. Make it sound like a movie snob here. It's a lot stronger than having a nuke, in your backpack, or, some guys carrying it his butt cheeks or whatever, whatever you think of. Mm-hmm. Just the context was a lot scarier when it's already gone off and you can't do anything about it. So,
you know what? And you mentioned it. It's been a while since I've seen The Day After, but that's a fun movie. That's Nicholas Frye was the director of that one. 83. Actually, I just looked up real quick because I want to see what year it was. 83. So it's around the same time he's working on Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, because he wrote and directed that one too. But Day After is a lot of fun. If there's anybody listening and you're like, I love to watch nuclear holocaust movies, that is definitely one that should be on your list. If you do, you're also a scary person, but that should be on your list.
Yeah, nuclear holocaust movies turn me on. Hey, babe, you want to watch this? Yeah, I got one for you. Okay.
Yeah. I think my answer for this one is I'm going to go a little old school because I loved watching these with my dad, and atomic bombs feature heavily. I mean, the entire original movie and the series is a metaphor for atomic bombs and the atomic scare. And, the creature itself is awakened by nuclear testing. I'm going to go Godzilla, the original Godzilla from 1954. And
there you go.
Pretty much most other Godzilla iterations after that. So much fun. Yeah, I remember watching those constantly with my dad. My runner-up one would be Dr. Strangelove.
I was wondering if anyone was going to say that one.
Yeah.
The other one that I had on my list, and this should surprise no one, is Crimson Tide.
Yes.
There you go.
There you go. All right, question number 2. What is your favorite helicopter moment or scene in a movie or TV show? So favorite helicopter moment or scene.
Oh, come on, man. Really? How many more hours do we have to
I knew asking this one would cause a problem.
We have to have a 20.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I'm just venting because how can we put 80 answers in one slot? I'm upset with our host. Go right ahead, Andy.
I'm going to have to go with Indiana Jones when the big bald Nazi who's like 8 feet tall but not very smart is trying to punch the hell out of Indiana Jones. He just kind of waits until the blades of the helicopter, which has to be pretty loud behind him, just cut him in half, I guess.
Yeah.
Shows you that stupidity is, can be, part of the plot sometimes. You see the blood splatter on the tarmac, you don't have to see him actually get cut in the head.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. You know what's happening. Yep.
Patrick, what do you got? Narrow it down to one.
Narrow it down to one. Okay. So here, you know what? I can narrow it down to like 10. But I have to say the number one, we'll keep it with Terminator, and I'll say that helicopter chase in Terminator 2, especially. And again, I want to say that I learned more about this, and on the Friendly Fire podcast, they talked about it. But that scene where they flew that helicopter under a bridge.
Yeah.
And that was not CGI. That was a real stunt pilot doing that stuff. And then there's this one scene where he noses the thing up and he has to go over some like wires or a tower or something. And reading about that, I heard that was like a near miss. That was like we almost like crashed this helicopter. And wasn't it James Cameron had to ride along because the cameraman was like, I'm not going on that thing. And so James Cameron did that. So I went back and then I remember watching a bunch of documentaries on it, doing the whole thing. But like that, 90-second clip when that helicopter is coming in, and just within the context of the movie, that's a great chase scene as well. That is just an awesome chase scene.
Oh, yeah.
Exchanging fire and coming in, and just the music worked. But when you go back and watch it and see what you're seeing, that there was a real stunt pilot with a real helicopter doing real things. I mean, I could sit there and rewatch that for 2 hours. I know, because I did when I found out it was all real. And again, you see that guy go up and over that thing, and then he flies under a bridge. I mean, like, I can't, like, even just doing that, and I'm not like a pilot, but, like, that can cause just the way the wind comes off the rotors and throws off the way the thing has lift. Going into an enclosed space, that can throw things off and just cause the helicopter to crash, just not because you bump into anything, but just because of the fact that guy had the fortitude, right, to do that. I can't get enough of that scene. And I think that whole sequence is awesome, and good on that pilot for just what an excellent bit of piloting from my estimation. Now, if there's any helicopter pilots out there that can point me otherwise, please send in your comments attached to the box of a PlayStation 5 with a PlayStation 5 in it. Send it to Pat. I'll read your review. But for me, Terminator 2, helicopter chase. Loved it.
That, Pat, you never cease to surprise me that you didn't go for the low-hanging fruit.
What was it? What did I miss?
I thought he was going to go with The Matrix.
Well, see,
I really did.
I thought he was going to either go Matrix or Mission Impossible.
Well,
you gave me one answer, John. You gave me one answer.
That's my fault.
So, and Mission Impossible can cover a couple things, right? You could do but the one I love, because it's so ridiculous, is the original Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
When the helicopter is in the train tunnel. It's so awesome, but so nuts. The whole thing, the blade stops like right. I mean, just the whole thing was so great. The fact that they flew it into the train tunnel at all, like, that's just dumb. Go over it and get them on the other side. Like, come on.
So there you go. If you need your film festival where you have movies that feature trains and helicopters, you can put in Broken Arrow. You can put in the original Mission Impossible.
You're good.
Yeah.
And then, I don't think anyone else is going to mention another Mission Impossible, but the collision in Fallout's pretty good too when they're racing for that detonator.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole sequence is kind of amazing. That is Tom Cruise at his Tom Cruisiness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to
I was going to say there's a comedy. If you ever seen a couple years ago, there's a movie with Tina Fey where she's an embed in Afghanistan called Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Yes.
And she's, I know that, and there's a scene in the plane where she's like, this sucks, this plane. I feel like they stuck her. I feel like there's a scene with her in a helicopter equally, just like, what did I get myself into? I'm just a journalist. But I mean, Tina Fey could probably sit in a broken bumper car and be funny too. So
that's fair.
Anyway.
Which total side mention there, but you said Tina Fey. If you haven't seen on Netflix the 2 seasons of the 4 seasons, they've done a remake of the movie 4 Seasons by Alan Alda.
Okay.
So far, it's 2 seasons on Netflix. It's pretty good. And I think there's going to be a 3rd season.
Okay.
Cool. Check it out.
So my answer for this one is I'm going to go. And Pat, thank you for choosing Terminator 2 Judgment Day, because I narrowed it down to 2, and that was one of them. So now I get to go with my other one.
Okay.
I'm picking the Ride of the Valkyries scene in Apocalypse Now.
There you go. I was waiting for that one.
Helicopters coming in, Colonel Kilgore's, assault on the village, and the Wagner music going on. I remember it first time, and I remember how young I was when I saw that. I feel like I was maybe 14. First time I saw that movie, 13 or 14. And I just remember watching that thinking, this is awesome. I love this. And I think so much of my movie watching was also influenced by watching stuff with my dad and his reaction to stuff too. And I remember he just enjoyed that so much. I think he cranked up the TV volume. I'd almost guess that he probably tried to blow out the speakers whenever that part came on.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good song to blow them out with if you're going to do it. I mean,
yeah. All right. And finally, question number 3. What is your favorite Christian Slater role?
I guess I would have to go with Greetings and Salutations.
There you go.
That's got to be top 5 at least.
I mean, that's camp in a single character, but I remember in the 90s, I got, obviously I'm into music, and I got something, I think it was the 10-year anniversary issue of Spin Magazine, where they had like the top 10 artists that they named, most of whom were alternative, but there was also like Guns N' Roses and Madonna, but they also mentioned like Husker Du and Public Enemy, and they took movies and they said the movie that represents best this time from 85 to 95, which was the 10 years that had been in business, was Heathers. Actually, they picked it, and this is before there were any school shootings, and I think they nailed it. They kind of nailed the. They didn't know at the time that they basically chose a movie that was deemed eccentric and implausible at the time, and probably a little over the top, which now that we're in where we are in time, it's like completely normal. But I think it needed an eccentric and charismatic bad guy, evil character to co-opt Winona Ryder, sort of strangely a protagonist in the film, to do all these terrible things to like her high school friends. Yeah. So, I'm not a huge Christian Slater fan. I kind of felt for a while like he was overrated as a heartthrob, but he does a lot of things. There's a lot of films where he is really good, and I think that's one that I probably thought was overrated at the time. But looking back, like he nailed that character as, it's like a Jack Nicholson type of character or caliber of character. I think so. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Sorry if I stole that from you other guys, but oh well.
No. That's a great one, and it lets me do a different one, so I love it.
What do you got, Bo?
Yeah.
So before he did Mr. Robot, he did a show in 2011 that did not last long called Breaking In. And he basically ran a high-tech security firm. and he almost played a caricature of himself as this character, and they found a way to work in greetings and salutations in a way that was just perfect. It was just this fun little show that if they had done more episodes, I think could have been really cool. But it was a bad time to try to do somewhat edgy TV, and it didn't last long. So yeah, that might be it for me. There's another one that was sort of bubbling up that I don't think anyone else will say. I thought his angsty Will Scarlet in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was good for him, and it was well done. I'm not sure, I don't know if that's his best, but I thought that's one of the things I remember him for. How about that?
Yeah. Runaway Kid, you'll find nothing but trouble here. I think that with the kids trying to pickpocket him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Patrick, what do you got? Christian Slater role.
Well, it's funny because I knew of him. Growing up, you'd always hear the name and all that. But now kind of going back through all these movies now, I'm kind of catching up on all the films that that really made his filmography that maybe I missed just because they were films that I wouldn't have been really into back in the day. Well, what you said was exactly it. Prince of Thieves was my introduction to him on the screen, right? And I like the role that he played, and I'm still entertained when I watch the film. I love it. So I would have to say that would be, like my gut reaction. And I got to go back and look. I really enjoyed the movie, and I keep wanting to call it Frequency, but whatever the one where he was like the radio guy.
Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume. I really dug that. And I remember watching that movie and kind of getting transported back in the day to where, you had to tune into the radio to listen at a certain point. And because it wasn't like, oh, I'll just play it later, or, if I can download it or whatever. It was like you had to listen. And I remember kind of like flashing back to underground stuff that would happen. The Jerky Bros were going around. So someone had a tape of that, right? Like, hey, you got to check these guys out. They're fun. Like just that underground thing. So I really enjoyed him in that movie. But just, for variety's sake, and I know it's only a cameo, but, I'm not going to lie, I'm a Trekkie. And when he appears in The Undiscovered Country, and the way they do it is just so well done when they're on, which, by the way, okay, total random, but Captain Sulu, favorite helicopter scene, honorable mention, Star Trek 4.
There you go, yeah.
Old,
is that a Huey?
Is that a Huey? Old, but interesting. But when he appears on that, and all of a sudden, the way they do it, and there's just a conversation, and you're like, wait a minute, is that? And then they show the reverse shot of the camera, but you're looking into the light, so all you see is a silhouette, and you're like, that sounds very much like, and then they zoom in and you're like, Christian Slater's in a Star Trek movie? What the what? And obviously there was no internet that was widely in use then, but you'd find out that, he was Trekkie and he wanted to be in the film, and so he got a cameo. I thought that was just a cool part of Star Trek 6. And I know it was a very small part, but I thought he added a whole lot. Not to mention just how he played the scene, which was great, but just adding, who he was as a cameo in the show or in the movie. I thought that was pretty slick too. So I'll put that out there. So I gave you 3 answers. You kept me to fine. 1 for the helicopter.
I know, but, that was my mistake to try to box you in there.
It was hard.
All right. Well, to round this out and finish this up, my answer for this one is I'm going to go back to one because you guys, we've mentioned Heathers, we mentioned Pump Up the Volume. Those were both ones I was thinking about. But I'm going to go back to one before he became kind of like the rebellious heartthrob that he was there for a little bit. I'm going to go all the way back to an early one for him, 1986. It's one of my favorite movies. We've already mentioned Sean Connery tonight as well. I'm going to say The Name of the Rose. Because I really, Ron Perlman, Sean Connery, Christian Slater, I saw that movie way too young, than when I should have seen that movie. But really, I've always enjoyed that movie. Like that, just the whole kind of medieval Sherlock kind of mystery to it all. But yeah, I thought he did a great job in that one. Very, very young Christian Slater, but to be able to hold his own as a young actor up against Sean Connery in that film, I thought he did an outstanding job in that one.
Yeah.
All right. Those are our 3 questions, and that is our episode for Broken Arrow. So Just a real quick recap. I mentioned at the top of the episode, this month is our John Travolta Appreciation Month. So this time was Broken Arrow. Next week is going to be Michael. The week after that is going to be Phenomenon. And then not John Travolta, but we do have a little break that we're going to take here at the end of the month. So we're going to bring you one that was in the Patreon vault, and we're going to release it. Since our Patreon this month is Carrie, which features one of the first movies that John Travolta was ever in, our built-in break episode at the end of the month is going to be another movie that has a nice eruption of blood. It's going to be The Evil Dead episode that we did on Patreon a few years ago. So we're going to put that one out there for free for you, so you don't have to go get it in the Patreon. And then our Patreon short is going to be The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. So we'll have a little quick, like 15-minute episode on that one that I will cover later this month. Yeah, so much fun talking these with you. Andy, let us know where can we find your stuff? Where should people go if they want to find more of your stuff? And what do you have coming up? What kind of other stuff you got coming up soon that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, well, 90 Days in the 90s you can find anywhere you buy books. I always encourage people, to order from their local bookstore, although they have to order it probably. Or Amazon obviously has it. Other than that, I'm just in the middle of a couple of writing projects. I don't have anything that's, going to be imminently published, but, that's part of the writing life. You just got to keep working on what you're doing. I suppose there's a tangent to 90 Days in the 90s. If anybody listening to your show is a huge 90s music fan or just curious about music, I've got 4 playlists on Spotify. It's like 90 Days in the 90s, 1, 2, 3, and 4 that all have different flavor. And each one has a different, I guess, angle of 90s music or music that influenced, sort of the creation of the book. So other than that, I'm just enjoying my summer, just hanging out with my 2 dogs and doing a bunch of writing and trying to get out and do different things. But yeah, that's what's going on.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this one. It was so good to have you back. And we always have fun talking movies. So anytime we can get anybody else to come on and talk with us, we have a blast.
Good deal. Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And Pat and Bo, as always, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Andy, thank you for joining us. It was great hearing your thoughts and input and all that kind of thing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, great to talk to you, man.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
All right, everybody, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we will see you back here next time for Michael.